Okay, before we get into the next video, I want to talk about a few terms I'm going to use. And I want everybody to understand what I'm saying before we get into the video. So the first term, I'm going to use a little model here, and we're going to talk about the components of the tail of the airplane. And sometimes it is called the tail feathers because it's like an arrow or a bird. The tail feathers give the aircraft direction. So this is my model. This is a A4 Skyhawk Navy, go Navy, by the way. And if we're talking about anything from this portion here on back, this is called the tail feathers or the empennage. There's another term. Empennage just means the portion that's in the back of the airplane that's used for direction. So this flat surface here is actually comprised of two components. The forward part that's painted gray, and you can see there's attachments. These are actually just painting, but in real life, this would be a separate component than from this white piece here. This forward piece here is called the horizontal stabilizer. And the reason why is because it is in the horizontal configuration, and it stabilizes the aircraft in that plane of flight. The piece that's attached to the back is called the elevator, and the reason it's called that is that it moves up or down like this, and it gives the plane direction. So if you want to climb, you pull the stick in the cockpit backwards, and the piece, the elevator goes up like this. The air hits that elevator, forces the tail down, and puts it in a nose-high attitude. And vice versa if you want to go down. Push the stick forward, elevator goes down, and it pushes the tail up. And again, you can go into a descent. So these pieces, also the rudder, or this is actually the gray portion up here, is called the vertical stabilizer because it's in the vertical plane. The rudder is in the back, just like in a boat. If you're used to boating, this is the rudder, and it controls the airplane in this fashion. That's called yaw. So inside these pieces are components that make the shape of the surface. Those components, the main one we're going to talk about, especially on the next video, where we build the airplane, is called a rib. And a rib looks like this. And the rib is shaped in an airfoil. You have ribs also in the wing. And typically you have in the wing, the rib is shaped arced or curved on the top, and then unlike this one, it's flat on the bottom. So that arc on the top creates a differential in air pressure from the top of the wing to the bottom wing. Low pressure on top, high pressure on bottom. So the top of that wing, the airflow is going faster, and essentially the wing is being sucked up into the air, kind of like a vacuum. And there are some demonstrations that I can eventually do later on. But essentially, this is what we're looking at. This is what we're going to be installing in the next episode. If you take a line from the leading edge, this is the front of the rib, so the leading edge of the wing, to the trailing edge of the wing, you draw that line is called a chord line. Kind of like what this piece of wood is doing here, but it's just an imaginary line. So the chord line intersects the rib right through the center. This rib is, I believe, a laminar flow configuration, meaning the curvature on the top of this rib is the same as the curvature that's on the bottom of this rib. The first occurrence in aviation that happened was in World War II with I believe, the P-51 Mustang. There's some debate about that, but it's widely known that the P-51 one of its very unique features is that it had a laminar flow wing, which helped it to be a little bit faster than most airplanes. That curvature we talked about earlier on the wing, that is called the camber. And all camber is the curvature of the wing. That's what we're talking about. This piece right here is just a stiffener. I'll talk about that in the next video. There's some debate within my head whether this is actually a stringer. I don't think it's a Longeron, can't pronounce that, but stringers are usually, and Longerons are usually comprised in the fuselage to make the shape and make it a little more rigid. The Longerons are usually bigger structure. Stringers are usually smaller structure on the fuselage, but you can have stringers within the wings. They typically go laterally instead of fore and aft. But for our sake, this is just a stiffener, and it makes the rib a little stronger in that fashion. So I hope these terms help you out in the next video. Please join in, and we'll get back to building. Welcome aboard.